Hi. In this video, I'm going to talk about a topic that is a bit of a taboo, I think, and it's about parents asking for help or needing help after the first year of their child's life. So being a parent is beautiful, but it's also really hard. And if you ask any mom who is honest, she will tell you so. But it feels like it's a bit of a well-kept secret among friends, something that we don't openly talk about. And because we don't feel safe to openly talk about it, it almost feels like we're not allowed to feel like that. And oftentimes, we don't even admit to ourselves that we're not doing so well until it's too late. But if you are 1 month, 1 year, 1 decade postpartum and you're still not feeling well, this video is for you. What is the issue here? We have this narrative that we should be grateful that we have been given the gift of life, this opportunity to raise a human being. And in addition, we chose to get on this ride called parenthood, most of the time at least. So why are we even complaining? Both can be true. You can be grateful and very happy about being a parent, while at the same time being exhausted, fed up, and stretched to the limit. One doesn't negate the other. Both of these can exist at the same time. And it's a big misconception to think that we should only be grateful and happy, because just by admitting that we need support or help and we're not doing so well does not mean that we're not grateful. Another thing is that parents seem to get a lot of support in the first weeks or months after a baby is born. And understandably so, there's so much to discover. It's very overwhelming. So there's an array of people lining up to help new parents, and thankfully so. But we have midwives, we have postpartum doulas, we've got mommy and me, dates and play groups and regular doctor visits. And everyone checks on the baby, of course, but people also check on the parent. They ask them how they're doing, how they're coping. It's considered normal to also care for the parent in those first few months. But as the child gets older, that support for the parent is taken away as if it's not needed anymore. And what is the message that we as parents are given? It's that we should have it all figured out. But sometimes we don't. And in fact, oftentimes we don't. And as the child grows, the challenges grow with it. So because a parent continuously has to navigate new situations over and over again, and one could argue that the older the child, the more complex the challenges become. But let's look at the different stages of parenthood and the potential challenges that come with each phase from the parent's perspective. First of all, we have the newborn phase. Very little sleep. You constantly have to feed them, change their diapers. There's a very steep learning curve. There's a different family dynamic. You have to figure out what things will be like now that there's a third person, right, in the family. Your social life takes a hit. You feel the weight of the responsibility on your shoulders for the first time, and you keep worrying about every little thing that is new, or too late, or too this, or too that. It's just you keep worrying in the newborn phase. Then you have the toddler phase. Most of the time, sleep is a little bit better, but not much better. They still wake up, unless you're very lucky. But then they get tantrums. So they're just screaming for 2 hours. They get sick more often because they go to daycare. You've got a physical exhaustion going on because a toddler just keeps running around all the time. And you need to constantly provide them with food. They're just hungry all the time. Then you have the young kid phase. So from 3 to 5 or 6. If you're lucky enough, they're sleeping through the night by this time, but they have these ongoing emotional outbursts. They have challenging behaviors. They like to say no. The pace picks up because you have more after-school activities and things like that. And you have to figure out what to cook for them because they become very picky, and so you need to find something that they will actually want to eat. Then we have the older kid phase. You still have challenging behaviors. They want to become a bit more autonomous. They want to look at screens. So you've got screen time arguments. You have to become very creative as to what food to offer them because you become even more picky. Then we have the teenage years, where they start to distance themselves a bit from you, trying to define who they are. They might sleep too well, but they don't want to have much to do with you anymore. That can be really hard on a parent. And you start worrying about where they are when they're not at home, their friendships. Maybe they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You start worrying about their grades. And then they're adults and they leave the home. And suddenly you find yourself in an empty home for the first time after a very, very long time. And so you have to rediscover your relationship to your partner. You have to rediscover who you are as well. So you might argue that stages 1 to 3, when they're really small, are objectively harder, but that's not necessarily true. Some people find it more challenging to deal with teenagers, for example, and there are enough books and podcasts out there about the empty nest syndrome for me to know that it can be a really tricky phase in a parent's life when their children leave the home. And by the way, once you're a parent, you're always a parent. Sometimes I like to say that I would love to just take some leave. Can I just, sign off a holiday for a week and not be a parent? Not go somewhere, because I will still be a parent. I will still think about them, worry about them, etc. But just not be a parent. Can I please do that? Obviously I can't. But it's hard, right? It's a job that just never leaves you. That's why I strongly feel that parents should feel free to seek support and admit that they need help also post the postpartum period. And whether that period is 3 months or 6 months or a year. I typically talk about postpartum as the first year, but there's a lot going on after that first year. And it's a bit unfair that whenever there is an issue, there is a lot of information that you can find about the well-being of the child and about parenting. But I feel like these two things are incomplete. It's actually a triangle, and the third corner is the well-being of the parent. It's also important. The child comes first. Of course, we brought them into this world and we need to keep them safe and, happy. And of course, we need guidance on how to parent. We don't know. Many of the times we have no idea how to do that. And so guidance on parenting will help us navigate the different issues coming along. But most of the time, the child is fine. And often we figured out a way to parent. But that doesn't automatically mean that we are doing well. So it's not about the child and the parenting. It's also about you. And this becomes especially relevant for expats like me, raising a family in a country that is not my own, or for parents who don't have their own parents around anymore, like me. My mother passed away when I was 10, so she's not here. So leave the superheroes for your children's bedtime stories and remove the expectation of you having to be one, or any other parent for that matter. You are allowed to say that you're not okay also after the postpartum year, that you don't have it all figured out. Thank you for watching.